Adjust your position now. Shuffle your shoulders until they feel loose. Let your head sink deeper into the pillow, feeling that cool, crisp fabric against your cheek. Unclench your jaw. Let there be a little space between your teeth. Soften your eyes behind your closed lids, imagining that you are looking out at a vast, calm horizon. Take a deep breath in through your nose, imagining you are inhaling a cool blue mist of relaxation. Hold it for just a moment and release it through your mouth with a soft, audible sigh. Let the tension leave your body with the breath. Again, inhale deeply, filling your lungs with peace, and exhale, letting your body melt into the mattress. Imagine that your day is a heavy coat you have been wearing. It is full of items in the pockets, conversations, worries, to-do lists. Now imagine taking that coat off. Feel the weight lifting from your shoulders. Hang it on a hook outside the door of your mind. You do not need it tonight. It will be there tomorrow, but for now, you are free of it. Visualize a bridge in front of you. It is a wooden bridge, sturdy and safe, crossing over a stream of gently flowing water. The fog is rolling in, soft and white, obscuring the world behind you. As you step onto this bridge, the sounds of the day fade away, replaced by the gentle rhythm of the water below. Step, step, step. With every step you take across this bridge, you move deeper into relaxation, deeper into yourself, deeper into the quiet. At the end of the bridge, the fog clears, revealing a landscape of eternal twilight where the stars are just beginning to wake up. Welcome to the edge of time. Chapter 1: The Isle of Silent Stone. Far beyond the maps of men, where the chaotic oceans of the world smooth out into the glass-like mirror sea, there stood an island. It was not a large island, nor was it tropical or lush. It was a rugged, noble piece of ancient granite, rising from the water like the back of a sleeping leviathan. This was the Isle of Solstice, and upon its highest peak stood the lighthouse. It was not a lighthouse built of brick or painted in stark stripes. It was carved from a single colossal spire of pale moonstone. It glowed with a faint inner luminescence, like a pearl held up to a candle. It did not guide ships laden with cargo. There were no trade routes here. This lighthouse guided the wandering stars back to their constellations and offered a resting place for the dreams that had lost their way. The keeper of this lighthouse was a man named Orionis. Orionis was as old as the salt in the sea. He wore a coat of thick, midnight blue wool that smelled of old paper and rain. His beard was silver, neatly trimmed, and his eyes were the color of deep space dark, but filled with twinkling lights. Tonight, the air was crisp and still. The only sound was the rhythmic, hypnotic lapping of the mirror sea against the granite cliffs below. Hush, wash, hush, wash. Orionis stepped out of the heavy oak door at the base of the tower. He took a deep breath of the air. It tasted clean. It tasted of ozone and infinite space. He looked up. The sky here was not a flat dome. It was a deep, three-dimensional vault. The Milky Way was not just a streak of milk. It was a roaring river of diamond dust, so close it felt as though you could reach up and run your fingers through it. A good night for the keeping, he murmured to himself. His voice was low, a rumble that vibrated in his chest, instantly soothing. He began his nightly walk around the perimeter of the island. This was his ritual. Before he tended to the great light above, he had to tend to the island below. He walked along the path of crushed white shells. Under his boots, they made a soft, satisfying crunching sound. Crunch, step, crunch, step. He stopped at a patch of star moss growing on the northern rocks. This moss didn't photosynthesize sunlight. It absorbed starlight. During the day, it was gray and dormant. But now, in the dark, it pulsed with a soft, rhythmic green light. Orionis knelt down. He brushed his hand over the moss. It felt like velvet. Grow well, he whispered. The moss seemed to brighten in response to his voice, a wave of green light rippling through the patch. He continued his walk, checking the ancient iron moorings where the clouds would sometimes tie up to rest, and ensuring the tide pools were calm. In one pool, he saw a reflection of the moon so perfect that for a moment, he couldn't tell which was the rock and which was the sky. Everything was in order. The island was asleep. It was time to ascend. Chapter 2. The Spiral of Ascension. Orionis re-entered the tower. The interior was warm, heated by the geothermal vents deep beneath the granite. The walls were smooth moonstone, spiraling upward. In the center of the tower was the staircase. It was a masterpiece of ironwork, a spiral that wound its way up and up and up. There were 365 steps, one for every night of the solar year. Orionis placed his hand on the polished wooden railing. The wood was smooth, worn soft by centuries of his touch. He began to climb. He did not rush. There was no hurry in this place. Time here moved like honey, slow, golden, and sweet. Step, clack, step, clack. As he climbed, he passed the windows. The first window looked out over the sea. The water was a sheet of obsidian, calm and flat. The second window, higher up, looked out at the mist hovering over the water. The third window looked straight into a passing cloud, a soft gray fog pressing against the glass. Orionis fell into a meditative rhythm. Climb, breathe, climb, breathe. His legs knew the way. His mind began to drift, shedding the last vestiges of alertness, entering the state of the watch. This was a state of pure presence, where the mind was as still as the sea below. Halfway up, he stopped at the landing of the clock. Here stood a massive grandfather clock, carved from black ebony. But this clock had no hands. It had a face that showed the phases of the moons of distant planets. Tick-tock, tick-tock. The sound was slow. Heartbeat slow. It was the pulse of the tower. Orionis took a small brass key from his pocket. He inserted it into the clock and gave it a single turn. Click. He wasn't winding time. He was ensuring the rhythm of the piece remained steady. He continued his ascent. Up past the library level, where books of forgotten lullabies were stacked in tall piles. Up past the gallery of maps, which charted not lands, but nebulas. Finally, he reached the top. The lantern room. Chapter 3. The Crystal and the Stardust. The lantern room was a dome of flawless glass, offering a panoramic view of the universe. In the center of the room sat the mechanism. It was not a light bulb. It was a massive, multifaceted crystal cut from a fallen star eons ago. It was the size of a carriage, resting in a cradle of brass gears and gyroscopes. Currently, it was dim, glowing with a faint ember orange pulse. It was sleeping. Orionis approached the crystal. He could feel the warmth radiating from it. He walked to a cabinet on the wall and opened it. Inside were rows of glass jars filled with shimmering powders: blue powder, gold powder, silver powder, violet powder. These were collected stardust, swept from the balcony after meteor showers. Tonight, Orionis chose the jar of silver silence. He uncorked the jar. A fine glittering mist rose from it, smelling of winter air and vanilla. He walked to the fueling funnel of the great crystal. Carefully, with the steady hand of a master watchmaker, he poured the silver dust into the mechanism. The dust flowed down the brass tubes. There was a low hum. The brass gears began to turn. Click whir, the gyroscope spun up. And then the crystal awoke. It didn't flash blindingly, it bloomed. A beam of pure, soft silver light emerged from the heart of the crystal. It was magnified by the moonstone lenses, turning into a majestic ray that cut through the darkness. The beam began to rotate, slowly, so slowly. Orionis watched as the beam swept across the dark sea. Where the light touched the water sparkled. Where it touched the clouds glowed with an inner silver lining. Sweep and turn, sweep and turn. The light was a signal to the universe. It said, "You are safe, you are seen, you can rest." Chapter 4: The Weaving of the Northern Lights. With the light tending to itself, Orionis moved to his secondary task. He walked to the northern side of the lantern room, where a large, peculiar loom stood. This was the loom of the aurora. The threads on this loom were not wool or silk. They were filaments of charged particles captured from the solar winds. They shimmered in the air, weightless and ethereal. Greens, pinks, and deep purples. Orionis sat on the wooden bench in front of the loom. He picked up the shuttle, which was carved from driftwood. He began to weave. He was mending the sky. During the day, the noise and busyness of the world could fray the edges of the atmosphere. It was his job to knit it back together with light. He threw the shuttle. Swish, a thread of emerald green shot across the warp. He pulled the beater bar. Thump, a soft, muffled sound. Swish, thump, swish, thump. He worked methodically. He wasn't trying to create a specific picture. He was creating a feeling. He wove ribbons of magenta into the green. He added streaks of violet. As he wove, the sky outside the glass responded. High above the tower, the aurora borealis began to dance. Great curtains of colored light unfurled across the stars, mirroring the movements of Orionis's hands. The lights moved slowly, undulating like underwater plants in a gentle current. They washed over the stars, softening their glare. Orionis watched his handiwork. He saw a gap in the curtain of light and deftly filled it with a thread of gold. The sky was a blanket, and he was tucking the world in. He worked for hours. The repetition was a balm to his soul. Throw the shuttle, pull the bar, watch the lights dance, throw, pull, watch. His breathing synchronized with the loom, and out and out. Chapter 5. The Library of Bottled Dreams. His weaving complete, Orionis felt the pleasant weight of fatigue settling into his bones. It was time for his break. He descended a short flight of stairs to the room just below the lantern. This was the Archive of Dreams. The room was circular and lined from floor to ceiling with shelves. On these shelves sat millions of glass bottles. Blue bottles, green bottles, clear bottles, frosty bottles. Each one contained a dream that had drifted out to sea and been caught by the lighthouse's gravity. Orionis walked to his kettle, which sat on a small cast iron stove. He lit the burner. The flame was blue and quiet. While the water heated, he walked along the shelves, trailing his finger along the cool glass of the bottles. He stopped at a shelf labeled Flying Dreams. He picked up a bottle. Inside, a tiny white cloud was swirling, and if he listened very closely, he could hear the sound of wind rushing past ears. He smiled and placed it back. He moved to the shelf labeled Ocean Dreams. These bottles were filled with a blue liquid that defied gravity, sloshing up the sides. They sounded like waves crashing on a distant shore. The kettle whistled a low, melodic tone. Orionis made his tea. He used dried chamomile flowers harvested from the cliffs and a drop of honey from the star bees that lived in the lower caverns. He took his steaming mug and sat in his favorite armchair. It was a deep leather wingback chair, worn soft and supple. He sank into it. The leather creaked, a welcoming sound. He sipped his tea. It was warm and floral. It spread heat through his chest, relaxing his muscles. He looked out the porthole window. The beam of the lighthouse was still sweeping. Pass, pass, pass. The rhythm was hypnotic. The aurora was fading now, leaving behind a sky of deep, velvety indigo. Orionis felt his eyelids growing heavy. The warmth of the tea, the softness of the chair, the rhythmic sweep of the light. It was all pulling him down into a place of deep rest. Chapter 6. The Great Whale of Silence. Just as Orionis was about to doze off, a shadow fell over the tower. He didn't startle. He knew who it was. He stood up slowly and walked to the balcony door. He opened it and stepped out into the cool night air. Floating silently past the tower, swimming through the air as if it were water, was the Great Whale of Silence. It was a cosmic entity, colossal in size, its skin the color of the night sky, speckled with constellations. It moved with infinite grace, its giant fins undulating slowly. It was migrating through the galaxy, seeking the quietest places to rest. It passed so close to the tower that Orionis could see the nebulae swirling within its dark eyes. The whale opened its mouth slightly and let out a sound. It wasn't a roar, it was a hum. A low-frequency vibration that resonated in Orionis's bones. It was the sound of pure gratitude, a sound of ancient peace. Orionis raised his hand in greeting. "Rest well, old friend," he whispered. "The ocean of the night is yours." The whale drifted past, its massive tail flukes moving in slow motion, disappearing into the mist of the Milky Way. Orionis watched it go until it was just another shadow among the stars. The encounter left him feeling incredibly small and incredibly safe. He was just a tiny speck in a vast, beautiful, benevolent universe. Chapter 7. The Keeper's Rest. Orionis returned inside. He washed his teacup and placed it on the rack. He checked the gauges on the crystal mechanism one last time. The silver dust was flowing smoothly. The light was steady. The gears were humming their quiet lullaby. He descended the spiral stairs, down, 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 past the clock, tick-tock, past the misty windows, to the ground floor. His bedroom was a small, cozy chamber carved into the rock foundation of the island. It was the quietest place on Earth. The bed was large, with a frame of driftwood and a mattress of down feathers. The sheets were flannel, soft and warm. Orionis took off his heavy coat. He took off his boots. He lay down. The mattress rose up to meet him, cradling his tired back. He pulled the heavy duvet up to his chin. It was weighted, pressing him gently into the mattress. The only sound down here was the muffled, rhythmic heartbeat of the ocean outside the thick stone walls. Thrum, thrum. It was the sound of the world breathing. Orionis closed his eyes. He visualized the light above him, sweeping the sea. He visualized the star moss glowing green on the rocks. He visualized the great whale swimming through the stars. All was well. His watch was done. The keeper could sleep. And now, you are standing there in the room with Orionis, in the safety of the stone tower. The candle has been blown out. The darkness is complete, soft, and velvety. Notice how your own body feels right now. Borrow the heaviness of the stones. Feel your legs becoming heavy, sinking deep into the bed, as if they are made of moonstone. Feel your arms becoming heavy, resting by your sides, done with the work of the day. Feel your head sinking into the pillow, supported, cradled, safe. Imagine the beam of the lighthouse slowly sweeping over you. It is a beam of relaxation. As it passes over your feet, they relax. As it passes over your knees, they soften. Over your stomach, your chest, your hands. Over your face, smoothing your forehead, quieting your mind. You are floating in the mirror sea. The water is the perfect temperature. You are weightless, drifting, floating. There is nothing to do but let the current take you. Visualize a spiral staircase leading down into the deepest, most comfortable sleep. We will count down the steps together. 10. Taking the first step down. The air is warm and still. 9. Deeper down. The sounds of the world are far away. 8. Your body feels twice as heavy as it did before. 7. Drifting. 6. So tired, so comfortable. 5. Halfway down. The darkness is soothing. 4. Letting go of the last thought. 3. Almost there. 2. Touching the edge of dreams. 1. You are at the bottom. Deep sleep is here. The lighthouse watches over you. The stars watch over you. You are safe. Good night. Good night, good night.